If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
All the existing world around you is made of 99.9999999% space. And this space, so basically our reality is space with a little jiggle in it.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We are going to be chatting with the one and only Nassim Haramein a little bit later. Scientist, physicist, I think. Scientist for sure. Physicist, probably. Super smart guy. Fantastic chat. We've been trying to get him in Grimerica for a while now. And actually, funny enough, we had almost given up. And he sent us, his team emailed us and asked if we'd have him on. And we said yes. And of course, we'll give a shout out to old B Lord, who helped nudge that one along. Our buddy Brian, thank you, sir, for helping nudge this one home for us. We appreciate it. And before that, we're going to do a little intro. We got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham. No more self-isolating Dunlop.
What do you mean? I'm not.
You were isolating for like 2 weeks.
No, well, I had to. By the law.
I might be there soon, too.
Not by the law. I mean, not that I was, but I was just trying to be safe. That was like a month ago, though, Darren, where you're like, wait, your time is flying by for you or something. That was like literally a month ago.
Not
it might have been
be.
5 weeks ago. Yes, it was.
I've only lived in this house for 5 weeks.
Work and
What's today?
May 12th.
So I've been here 5-6 weeks.
Yeah. Anyways,
place is really coming along.
Before I forget, this is a great chat with Nassim.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And we did, like, if people are interested in this kind of content, we've had Marshall Lefferts on, Adam Apollo, and Jamie Janover twice, which all those guys work with Nassim. And they're fantastic guys, like great people. They've all got, they're talking about the similar philosophy and science as Nassim, but they're all coming from a different sort of bend at all. Adam's like a wizard, and Marshall has his new book, Cosmometry, and Jamie's Nassim, I don't know if he still is one of Nassim's his official emissaries. So I'll link to all those in the chat just so people have them. They're great chats, very similar, but also different.
Remember we met Jamie downtown Calgary?
We met him at an event. We did a little in-person podcast with him. I think that was
video
the second
broke.
time.
Remember we were trying to video the whole thing, but it turns out the camera had shut off after like 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, Brody had his camera there.
I didn't know that it shut off, huh?
The video doesn't exist, does it?
Yeah, it did. I don't know. This is I don't know. we just don't care about video. I don't even want to be out there in video.
It's too late to reel it back now.
We just do it live for the hell of it now. Yep. And the scene was great on video.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yep.
Especially, we got to do it live during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Gives people something to do.
Yeah.
Get some off of CNN for a couple of minutes. If only for a half an hour.
So, yeah, I want to mention as well, he's got the courses at the Resonance Foundation.
Oh, for free.
On for free. They're fantastic. I started watching the first few. Him and Marshall do a great little sort of intro to the course, like an hour and a half where they talk about everything.
Link in the show notes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, I should do that. I should do that.
Yeah, you'd be good at it. Yeah.
It'd be hard to fucking find the time, though. That's a good winter thing. I hope it's still free in the winter. Is it like downloadable? Or is it web-based?
It's web-based.
Yeah, so I hope it stays free in the winter, because the winter is like really a good time for me to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Summer's busy. I just went and got a couple new fishing rods.
How'd you do that? How'd you buy them? Cash?
Yeah. Against all odds, I bought them cash.
That's pretty scary. So you went, we were just talking about before this.
Well, I assumed it was going to be, because I was late getting here to do the intro, because I assumed I've been waiting to get these fishing rods because I got my COVID money from the Indians. Thank you, people. Mishko Gamming, my tribe, sent me $500. No, $250.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, and it says COVID relief money.
Wow.
So I was gonna buy. So I decided to buy some fishing rods, and then I think I'm gonna put the rest towards my 410 shotgun, but because I want to get stuff with it. I don't want to just.
Yeah, no, you have to do it before while you can, while you got it. Otherwise, it'll just get.
Otherwise, it'll just get sucked into life, and I was just like, "Hey, they're sending me that. I'm gonna get some stuff."
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay." So I found these 2 fishing rods online, nice ones, cheap,
on Kijiji,
good rods for cheap on Kijiji and in Chestermere.
Right.
So it's like the ultimate deal for me. Like, buddies, honestly, like I'm in one neighborhood in Chestermere, he's in the next neighborhood. You know where Joey used to live in those townhouses where we ate the mushrooms? He's in one of those.
Yeah.
So those are like right there. I could literally hit a golf ball, probably hit his house. Yeah. You could for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So he's like, I won't be home till 6 though. So I'm like, that's fine. This is a 5-minute job for me. I'm going to leave my house. I'm going to drive to the bank machine, which is, 2 minutes from my house. Yeah. 2 minutes back to Buddy's by the rods. It should be a 10-minute round trip. So I leave. I drive by you driving in. I get to RBC. I go to the drive-thru. It's closed. I'm like, oh, okay. They've closed the drive-thru machine. No big deal. So I like go to the door and it's locked. And I'm like, and for some reason, my brain immediately goes to, because I remember the times when you used to have to put your, remember when you used to actually have to put your card in the slot before the door would unlock? Yeah. So I'm looking for the slot. And I'm like, there's no slot. So then I start reading the signs on the door. And it's like, no, we're only open 10 to 3. Even the bank machine's only open 10 to 3.
Wow. Okay.
So if you work, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off, essential personnel.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And I'm honestly, in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done banking with RBC. I'm pissed because I've already got some other stuff going on with TD.
Yeah.
I could just jump ship completely to TD. Then I go to TD drive-thru. It's closed. I go to the door. It's locked. 10 to 3. I go to Scotiabank. Same thing. I go to the Petro-Canada to try and use the bank machine in there, but it's RBC, so they've closed that one as well.
Wow.
So then I went to the Fast Gas, and they have like one of those like generic ones.
Yeah. Yeah, like a third-party bank machine kind of.
So it's there.
$3 to get your money out.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm thinking, as I'm going in there, I'm like, I'm going to the fucking bank, and I'm telling them they can pay these fucking $3 fees for every time I have to go to the bank machine that my bank machine is not available. Because I already pay a monthly fee.
So this explains why when I have to go do banking at the Royal Bank too, but I've been procrastinating. Right, I have a check on me to deposit. I've been procrastinating.
But you can't do it at the bank. Oh, you can take a picture of it.
No. Just wait. So every time I go by it, it's lined up.
Well,
this is why it's lined up, because they've squished the hours to 5 hours. Yeah. So everybody's got to stand. All these slaves have to stand in line at the bank, trying to stay away from each other because of this fake social distancing. It's because they're closed. Like, because whenever I used to go to the bank, there was nobody in line, 1 or 2 people in line, that never lined the bank machine, and these are like downtown banks.
Mm-hmm.
What a joke!
They've even closed the bank machine.
So is this because of COVID, or is it a war on cash?
I don't know, but they're saying it's because of COVID.
But it's the start of the war on cash.
Could be.
Canada's going to be there.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing about Canada
we're following right along
is that
the EU
you can legally not accept cash in Canada.
Oh, you can. Oh, I thought you were saying the opposite to me.
No,
you can legally not
States,
accept it.
You have to accept it, but here in Canada, you do not.
Most of the people are polite enough to say we prefer debit or credit during these times. But
now I was in the pot shop buying some joints, and it says, "Fucking, we don't take cash," and I didn't even have any cash on me. I was using my bank card, but I was just like, is that legal? Can you just tell people you're not taking cash? He's like, oh yeah, that's legal.
That's pretty scary. That is scary.
So then I got out to the truck.
That is scary.
And I'm like, I don't believe that. So I Google it. And it's like, sure enough. It's like, no, the Bank of Canada says that you don't have to accept
that's scary.
cash if you don't want it.
That's scary. Well, so now you want to make I was just talking to somebody today about how awesome Kijiji is. It's a little trading website, right? For some reason, BC used to use Craigslist, and Alberta, the province over, uses Kijiji. I don't know why there was a big difference.
Well, it used to be Craigslist here too. Yeah, Kijiji just took over.
Yeah, but I don't know why they didn't take over BC is what I'm saying.
I think they have at this point.
No.
There's no way. There's
Maybe.
no
Well, I
way.
don't know, Craigslist.
Kijiji
Well,
has
5
what?
years ago, it was definitely
10
No. Like even a couple years, it was still Craigslist.
for everyone, or
Yes,
just for
yes,
like
no,
Mary, your
no.
mom?
Oh, it was a weird cultural phenomenon or a technological one. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
have to hear from this.
I will.
the
I'll
BC
find out.
audience.
I will
no,
get.
You don't
Yes.
need to. I will hear. We have plenty of listeners in BC.
Anyways, because I've had to go pick up some stuff from Maria off Kijiji, right? Or she's like Facebook Marketplace. I mean, that Facebook Marketplace is really what's taking off for all these personal transactions.
Oh, I don't have Facebook, so I don't.
But get this. So eventually, like it's a brilliant thing. You can just go. You can have an agreement with somebody that I'm going to pay you, $20 for this fishing rod or whatever. You go over there. It's a great transaction. I mean, for the most part, right? You're not really getting ripped off. You're like, here's $20. Here's a fishing rod.
It's always been
great.
pretty
I
good.
love it. I love the transaction. I love the feeling about it. Just meeting a stranger and exchanging goods for cash.
I've never
Or
had a real
exchanging
bad
goods for goods.
experience on
But
Kijiji.
sooner or later, what are we going to come to now? They're going to track those transactions, right? Are they? Do they want to?
Oh,
They
it's
want to track
coming.
every fucking transaction
I mean,
now?
Kijiji says right on their website that, or there's something like fucking billions and billions of dollars. Like
What?
it's over $1 billion a year, the Kijiji market.
Yeah. So, and that's
that's
cash,
just going
no tax,
by
that's
their
all that
feedback
stuff, right?
on
Yeah.
ads where
Yeah.
people say, my ad worked, my ad
Wow,
worked, my ad worked.
Yeah.
And every time that comes up for me, I decline. I don't know. No,
No,
other,
yeah,
other,
of course.
other.
No, of course. Yeah.
And I'm not the only one doing that.
Yeah, so it's
There's a
probably
measurable percentage.
5 times that or 10 times that.
Yeah, I'd say
It's
no.
probably
I don't know
5%
about,
of the people interact with that.
I'd
would
say it's double that
No, it's
because they're pretty aggressive with it. You have to select something.
no, really.
So
Anyway,
I'm just
yeah.
selecting. It's
Other, yeah.
like it'd be just as easy for me to select I found a buyer as for me to say other.
Right. Anyways, eventually this is probably where they want to go. Get rid of the cash, get into some sort of every bank's going to have its own crypto or every country's going to have its own crypto and they're going to start tracking all these transactions. Whether it's in PayPal or
But by
email
that-
transfers
by
or
that
whatever,
same,
right?
By that same fucking gambit.
Gambit. Yeah.
I mean, the Canadian government has just basically admitted that they're not going to be able to track the 200,000 fraudulent CERB applications that they've paid out.
What applications?
CERB,
What's that?
the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit. So there's about 200,000 fraudulent things of people that weren't working. That's that they know of
That weren't working. And they
that applied for CERB that weren't eligible
why weren't they eligible?
because they
weren't
were
working?
weren't working.
Well, I mean, they can't get a job then.
People that haven't worked in years. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but
And
so
they're
that's just
calling
it.
that fraudulent?
Well, yeah.
Well, they should have been fucking clear on their thing then.
No,
I mean,
it was pretty clear.
No, I don't think so.
No, trust me, bro.
No,
I went
looked.
on there because I was trying to think. I was like, fucking pay cut. Can I get CERB? Is there any sort of, because I thought maybe there's a sliding scale where you can say my wage was affected by this amount. But no, it's $2,000 and it's like, yes or no. Did you miss this much work? Did you make at least this much money last year? Did you da 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 da? So now it's come out that there's about 200,000 people that shouldn't be on CERB. And you know what? I noticed it because like right after those CERB payments started coming out, the homeless people were partying downtown. I remember driving around being like, oh my God, people are fucking yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering just as soon as the CERB money comes out. Now, I'm not judging. I don't give a fuck.
No, but that
just
there's
think,
obviously
there's
a direct correlation there.
200,000 people, and this is straight from the numbers.
That's a lot of people for Canada. I mean,
So 200,000 times 2,000 per month. What's that?
well, was it per month or only one? Oh, is it still
No,
going
it's-
on?
You
Yeah.
get to apply for it, and they've admitted that they don't have the manpower. It would take them years to try and track it all down.
Oh my God, it's so.
Hey Siri, what's 2,000 times 200,000?
2,000 times 200,000 is 400 million.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Per month.
Isn't that like how much was the stimulus itself? Double that? I mean,
It
wasn't
was a
it
couple
under,
hundred
was it
billion.
sorry, right, a couple $100 billion. Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, I was thinking billion to drugs get mixed up with my thousands.
400 million a month.
That's sad. Yeah.
Tax dollars.
Have you seen those memes about the
And
homeless?
meanwhile,
If this is so deadly,
me who pays fucking $30,000-$40,000 a year in fucking income tax for the last 20 years of my life. I mean, it hasn't been that amount the whole time, but you know,
yeah.
I've paid fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and I don't get fucking shit.
Yeah.
Nothing there for me.
No. Oh, you'll get more taxed. You'll get taxed.
Oh,
more.
yeah, I can see
it'll
it coming.
ramp up. Yeah,
I can move to reserve, get all that back.
it'll ramp up. They'll even everything out sooner or later here. Anyways, but
I'm not
have you seen those memes about the homeless? Like, why aren't the homeless? Why, if this is so deadly, how come it's not ravaging the homeless camps?
I don't know. What about the
All the people that are
what else we're not?
outside,
You know what
not
else we're not hearing
washing
about?
their hands every day.
What
with
about all
masks.
those refugee camps in Europe?
Yeah,
We haven't heard anything about any of that.
yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways,
I
we don't want to get
digress.
too
I
far into that because I have some stuff to talk about. Go ahead.
I
What were you
shot
gonna say?
myself an antelope on Friday.
An antelope.
Yeah,
Cool.
they call it a speed goat.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Antelope.
was cool.
Wow. Why? I mean, you don't see a lot of antelopes around, do you? It's either
No.
elks or deer, right?
You know what's funny is we went out there, we shot at some geese. Well, we didn't even shoot at some geese. We went up on some geese in the one spot. Didn't get any. Just shot off the 12 gauge a couple of times for fun. Because Eric hadn't shot it yet, so I let him. He hasn't tried a shot semi-auto. I still think we should get you out shooting the guns one day.
I don't want a gun. I don't want to shoot the guns. I can pull a trigger if I need to one day.
No, I don't think you can. But you won't be able to load it or cock it or anything.
Is it the same as what they do on TV?
Oh my god! Shoot your.
I played
fucking. foot off.
Pistol Whip in VR.
Okay, you're set. Anyway, so then we went to another spot a little further east, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes from here. And we were driving up one road to see a couple deer.
An hour and 10 minute east.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they went running up over the hill. So we drove up a little farther, came up over the hill, and there's the two deer. There they are. Get the scope on them. And it's pretty windy. I couldn't quite get the shot. When I did shoot, I missed, and they ran away. So then I was feeling a little run down. Like, fuck, again, I missed the fucking deer. And then we hopped in the truck and just like, fuck. So we drive up and around the corner, and there's a whole fucking herd of antelopes there.
Wow. And they didn't run away with the gunshot? Like you drove far enough away? that
Yeah,
they
it was
made
far away. It was pretty windy.
Yeah, right.
So then, so the wind would have taken the shot, the noise away pretty quick. I don't think they would have heard it. And we had it was probably,
5
4 or
kilometers
5K
or
up
something.
the road.
Yeah.
So we seen a herd of them and, got a shot off, hit it, dropped it. That's it.
Nice.
Threw it in the back of the truck, cut the guts out, took it back here, hung it in the garage, and my buddy Nate came over. This is my first time butchering an animal by myself. My buddy Nate came over and helped me. We butchered the whole thing.
What was that like?
It was great.
Was it?
Yeah. I've cleaned a ton of fish
Okay. Yeah.
and done like smaller game and stuff like that. And I used to, when I was a kid, I've like always, been helping my uncles and shit when they were cleaning their moose. It was just never like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like, hey, do this, hey, do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We're way too young to comprehend
Yeah.
the process. So I didn't really know, but Nate's done it a ton of times. So he came over, helped me. Did all that, took about probably 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then
Not too bad.
probably I spent another hour and a half probably the next day doing the ground. So I had to grind in the pork fat and all that shit. It was good. I ended up with about 45, 50 pounds.
Good.
Meat in the fridge, 20 pounds of ground. I'll give you a couple pounds of ground after the show. You take it home. It's good stuff.
Might be too gamey for me.
Not gamey at all.
No?
No, I don't think you'll even notice
It's
the difference.
a fast goat and it's not gamey?
No, I couldn't believe it. Dude, it's so tender. I could not believe it.
Wow.
The tenderloins, I was just frying them up in the pan and eating them like that.
Really?
That's my breakfast.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Delicious.
Good for you. Congrats.
Thanks, buddy.
Did you say a prayer? Did you ask
I
it
just had
for
my
forgiveness
tobacco.
or anything? Or did
Forgiveness. No, I just had my tobacco. Let it leave.
That's good. Yeah.
That's it. The
You
tobacco.
don't have like a little ritual to do, being Aborigine and all that.
What do you think tobacco is, bro?
You just gave the spirit tobacco or whatever. Yeah.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
You lay tobacco down.
Good. Awesome.
So now I'm going to go out and get some walleyes this weekend over at the fish pond. stock up the fridge with some walleyes, the freezer with some walleyes, and then maybe get one more elk. Be good for the year.
Nice.
I'll have a year's worth of meat supply. I do got to figure out a way to get more birds in there.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do that yet because I don't know. That's what the 410's for, is for shooting like partridges and stuff like that. It'd be easier if you had a farm because I'd really rather just farm chickens.
Yeah.
Would be the best way to, like, I really don't mind chicken. And it's not, I feel like it'd be less work to just have an area of your farm to just have a chicken cycle going somehow than to have to go out and waste all that time. And not that it's just wasted time. It's just, it's a lot of effort to go out to get birds, because it's not like you can go out and get 30, 40 birds in a day, right? You go out and maybe you get 4 or 5 if you're lucky, and they're a little smaller than chickens. So, and you probably spent $30 in gas going out there, whereas you go out and you drop a deer or an elk, and
it's worth it.
It's totally worth it. It's worth the day's work. Whereas, the birds, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
Except for the geese. You can shoot a lot of geese, but I mean, who the fuck wants to eat a ton of geese? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my weekend.
Cool.
What do you got?
Oh, I got a quote for us. We got to wrap this intro up here.
We're only at 20 minutes.
Quick. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. This is quite an appropriate quote from The Octopus of Global Control from Charlie Robinson. And then I have a little listener email to say something about a jingle for the Operation Project segment. Project Operation.
Do we have a new jingle for that?
We do. We have 2 new jingles for that. So this is Darren can guess this guy, the author of this quote.
All right. I can't find the
Okay, here we go. Go back to bed. This is kind of appropriate. You ready?
Yes.
Go back to bed.
I found it.
Oh.
The iPad wasn't charged. I mean, this is all goes back to the fishing rod debacle. I'm unprepared.
Unprepared because of the cash, the war on cash.
And for some reason, this.
Okay.
No.
Too much of it. No.
It's the profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week. Can you guess the human who spoke it or wrote it down? Profound quote of the week.
Go back to bed, America. Your government has figured out how it all transpired. Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again. Here's American Gladiators. Watch this. Shut up. Go back to bed, America. Here's American Gladiators. Here are 56 channels of it. Watch these pituitary retards bang their fucking skulls together and congratulate you on living in the land of freedom. Here you go, America. You are free to do what we tell you. You are free to do what we tell you.
Dave McGowan.
No, I'm close.
Who was it?
It's more from the comedic side of things.
Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks. Yeah, didn't come across very comedic. Sorry, but
no, you didn't do. You didn't.
I didn't knock it out of the park, eh?
So did you email me the new jingle?
Yeah, but it's okay because I got an email with another one. We're not going to worry about the jingle for this episode. I'm just going to read the email and then we're going to get into it.
Get into what?
The segment.
Oh, this one's really sticking.
People are liking it.
It's like a weekly.
Project Operation Project. Well, I don't know. I should skip a week here and there probably. But hey, Graham, last week, episode 419, this is episode 420 coming out.
This is episode 420, Nassim Haramein.
Yeah. That's pretty good. We were wondering what to do, and he's probably like one of our best guests ever, really.
Yeah.
And, that's good. That's good.
Pretty harsh on the
We
other.
were gonna do like a round table about weed and stuff,
or a
call-in show, but whatever. This is
here we are.
Hey Graham, last week 419, when Darren couldn't get the sound clip to work before the quote of the eerie sound, the attached clip popped into my head. So we sent a clip because it popped into his head. I recorded it in 2009, and I haven't thought about it in 11 years. Crazy, eh? I made it right around the time I lived in Calgary for a year.
Ooh. So the jingle was made in Calgary?
And would often travel the countryside of southern Alberta to be inspired by the sky. I love that drive down like the 22 through southern Alberta. It's fantastic. The rolling hills and all that and the big sky.
Dude, I was up in Chain Lakes on fucking Sunday morning and it snowed 6 inches.
Yeah.
There was so much snow at the top of the pass that I had to get out and walk in front of the truck so we didn't drive off the edge.
Really?
You know, everything's just white.
Wow,
It's just
really?
white.
Wow. After searching my files today, I found it. If you like it, feel free to use it on your show. If you don't like it, no sweat. Take care and keep up the good work. Kyle.
Cow.
Kyle.
Cow. Are you gonna play it?
Yeah, it's loading right now.
Loading. It's loading. You need a new computer. Slow. Psychedelic-y. Be a good trip report jingle. Huh. All right, let's have it.
All right, this is Operation Mayday. Because it's May. Operation Mayday involved a series of EW tests. We've talked about these before, right? Entomological warfare. This is the U.S. military back in 1956 in Savannah, Georgia. These tests were designed to reveal information about the dispersal of yellow fever mosquitoes in an
Mosquitoes?
in an urban area, in a city. These mosquitoes were released from ground level in Savannah, then recovered using traps baited with dry ice. The operation was detailed in a partly declassified U.S. Army report in 1981. Crazy, eh? So I went to that report.
They just assume they got them all back with their little traps.
I went to that report, and it's Attack of the Killer Mosquitoes. I've got a link in the show notes. And it's pretty crazy. They're doing this whole analysis of how much it costs to flood a battalion or a city with disease-filled insects like mosquitoes. And they've got depending on the percentage of death from the thing, they've got a cost per death in there. Like they've done this analysis. Well, this is they're going back to $70 dollars. I got to find the It's crazy. They talk about the panic, what to do if this actually happens. They talk about one of the best ones to use would be foot and mouth, actually.
Foot and mouth disease?
Yeah. Creepy, eh? It's just creepy that they put this all together. Now they analyzed the cost of it, and it really wasn't very much. It was like $26,000 or something. I'm like, maybe that's in millions. Like, would that be 26 millions? But it doesn't seem like it. It seems like fairly cheap operation.
Huh. We could run that.
So if 5% of the people died, the cost per death would be $2.86.
The fuck was that?
Oh,
it's
sorry,
hooked up to your computer.
Yep. And then if 50% people died, the cost would drop to 0.29.
Ooh, not bad.
Crazy, eh? I mean, I don't even like talking about this stuff.
I found
it's pretty weird.
A nice 40-acre parcel in northern Ontario on a river. Treed for 30 acres, forested.
Wow.
Riverfront, 10 acres. Guess how much?
How many acres? 10?
40.
40 acres? Treed?
30 treed.
30 treed?
8 to 10 are clear to build on.
I have no idea.
$18,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty tempting.
Yeah.
Especially with everything now. I mean, they want people in the cities right now. They don't want you out in the wood. They want you in the cities.
I mean,
they want to control everything in the cities.
You can get a half decent tiny house for like $15,000.
Yeah.
We could buy that and just drop like 5 tiny houses on it.
Yeah.
Just be like fish in the river.
Well, they've got a cost here of aerosol attack on a city, and that's only $180,000.
That's not bad.
That's pretty cheap.
We could sell both vehicles and maybe borrow the rest.
The yellow fever is way cheaper on a city. It's like $11,000 by mosquitoes.
We're in the wrong business. What's the market on mind viruses through podcasts?
That's intangible.
Intangible?
Yeah.
NordVPN really wants us to
Untangible.
send out their mind virus.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Guess I shouldn't even have said their name. Because
It's funny. I just listened to something who advertised for them.
Oh yeah, I said no, but
Who was it? It was Sticks. Who was it? I don't know who it was now. Actually, huh? Interesting.
they had been emailing and
Jordan
emailing
Sather.
and emailing.
I just listened to it on the way here.
They
The
had
first
emailed
time
a
I've ever
bunch of
listened to
times,
Jordan
So I
Sather.
finally replied and just said no. Stop
Wow.
emailing.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
Money
take
out the
any
window,
sponsors.
people.
We don't take any sponsors.
Money
no,
out the window because we don't want NordVPN controlling our message.
That's
From
right. We don't want
America.ca.
anybody controlling
No,
our message.
except for you guys.
Yeah.
Well, you guys aren't really controlling.
Yeah, but they
anything.
would. I mean, if people didn't want us to talk about certain things, we probably wouldn't talk about them because we want listeners. But we'd still talk. So far, it hasn't happened. We talk about what we want to talk about.
That's right.
Darren doesn't really like my project operation, but people are telling me keep it going. So
Are
I'm gonna
they?
keep it
You're getting
going.
some support?
I'm getting some indirect backdoor support on the project
Fuck
operations.
Grimes. You don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it's always something. I mean, before that, it was a UFO quote.
Yep.
I pushed back and I eventually won that battle. It took like 4 years,
You won.
but
what
I won
battle?
that battle. Well, I'd been saying for years that it should just be the profound quote of the week.
Oh,
Like,
right.
let's
right.
just drop the UFO thing so it doesn't have
Well,
to
no,
be-
it's because I had a
'Cause,
whole wacky
for the
UFO
last,
quotes.
like,
I mean, I
2
wanted
years,
to.
there was nothing profound about them.
Why? Of course there was. Well, they were getting to slim pickings. I mean, yeah. I went through all the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Anyway, Grimerica.ca/support. Please support the show. We need you guys to keep supporting the show and support the show more if you're getting some value from it, just for that reason, so that we can keep saying no to fucks like NordVPN and these other people that want to advertise. Or it's a slippery slope once you get in bed with those advertisers. The next thing you know, they're saying like, hey, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. You got to have Peter Hotez on and say vaccines are good. Joe Rogan. But, this is what happens when you have advertisers. This is why we don't want advertisers ever. We just want support from you guys. So if you think we're doing a good job and the show is good, send some support our way over at Grimerica.ca/support. Maybe the show's just not good.
Yeah,
lately.
you could review the show too. That's always good.
reviewing
Join
the show
the
helps.
chats.
Say,
Put
reviews
some
are down
memes,
a
put
bit
some
and
memes.
support's down a bit. I get it. The COVID maybe it's affecting some people's pocketbooks, so I'm not going to take the support personally. But I mean, reviews are free, people. You could review the show for free while you're locked down in COVID. You got nothing but fucking time.
Join the chats. Throw some memes in the meme
You can
Smithery
join
channel.
the chats. Grimerica.ca/chats. Another fantastic place to be. And a double whammy, if you're a supporter and you're in the chats, you get to be a special color so everyone else knows how cool you are. So, Grimerica.ca/support. Please, it's time. What else you got?
That's about it.
That's about it.
I think so. Yeah. Just enjoy this chat with Nassim. It's gonna be it was a fun
Hey.
one. It was a fun one. Yeah.
All right, guys. Enjoy the chat with the one and only Nassim Haramein.
All right, we've got a long-awaited show here. We've got Nassim Haramein with us. He's the founder of the Resonant Science Foundation. Most of our listeners have heard us talk about your work before. You've written a couple awesome papers. One of them like being the quantum gravity and the holographic mass. You've also established Taurus Tech, which has made the ARK Crystals. We had a little synchronicity a while back where like 3 or 4 guests in a row were wearing your ARK Crystals. So we're not. I'm not going to say we're very familiar with your work. We try. And our listeners have heard a lot about you, but it's great to have you on. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that's great. Fellow Canucks up there in the north.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like we were talking about before the show, I used to live up there in Whistler and endure the warm weather of the minus 40s and the cold weathers of the minus 60s.
Yeah, we just came from winter to summer directly. Like it feels like last week or this week. We just switched
today.
We switched gears from winter to summer. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I was thinking because we've had a few of your colleagues on before, so listeners are pretty familiar with your work, and I thought maybe we could start kind of jump into the deep end a little bit. Maybe talk about. I wanted to thank you first of all about putting your classes on for free there at the Resonant Science Foundation. I kind of signed up, watched your first few lectures, you and Marshall Efforts, fantastic stuff. So I wanted to thank you for that, and I'm glad to see there's already thousands and thousands of people signing up. So this must be a great opportunity for you to get your theories out there and get people thinking differently.
Yes, it's great. I mean, it's been a hard, this period has been hard for the foundation because of the whole, quarantine. And the foundation was very much part of a program, had a program that was about traveling to very exotic countries and going to ancient sites. And so we had to cut that out completely, and which produced some difficulties for the foundation. But at the same time, I felt like, well, people are at home and they need something else than mainstream media to look at. And, I thought, okay, I got to put it out, for people to be able to study at home during this time. And it's been great. There's 20,000 people taking the course right now. And
wow,
it's dynamic. People are really enjoying it. The people are participating on the forum. It's really nice to see. And I'm really excited as well because I'm in the midst of publishing a whole new section of the physics, and it's so exciting.
Wow, that's great.
I'm so amazed as what we found.
What is that new physics you're looking at, you're publishing on?
I finished part of the holographic mass equation that I've been wanting to finish for years, that had to do with scaling it so that we could account for all of the different scales in the universe. I already had found that, of course, the proton scale obeyed the right condition, and that I was able to predict the radius of the proton, and it got confirmed. It's now co-data, by the way, since last year.
That's great. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That is the official value for the proton radius. And then, we applied it to the electron and it worked out, and we applied it to the universe and it worked out. It gave us the right size, the right mass. And now it's giving as well for the universe the right temperature, and which is really important. It's the background temperature of the universe. There's no theoretical model that outputs that without the need for dark matter or dark energy. And ours outputs exactly in the mean value of all the measurements they've been doing for the last 10 years. So we know we're in exactly where we need to be. And at that cosmological scale, to have that kind of precision is insane. Yeah. It's like never been seen. Never mind for the background radiation, right? The CMB. And so we now have applied the whole holographic mass solution to every scale. So superclusters, clusters, stars. Of course, all these things are different sizes, but the equation outputs the means, of all these things very, very clean. In case of stars, we're comparing to like 10,000 stars and large, statistical number on the chart, and we're like exactly in the means. and so same thing with galaxies and so on. And so we know now that we have all the scales, and as we outputted the scales, fundamental constants outputted at the same time. And I'm really excited because one of them is G, or the gravitational constant. And the gravitational constant is one of the less well measured value in physics. It's a big problem in physics. And every time you put G in an equation, the resolution of your solution is reduced to about 4 to 5 numbers after the period. Is significant numbers are reduced because in quantum theory, you can have precision to like 10 to 14 digit, like the G factor, which is like, for instance, the magnetic moment, or, you could have the Reinberg constant, alpha. These things are known to very high level of precision. So it's been a big problem in physics that G is only a measured value and it can't be measured with more than 5-digit precision. And so our model, as we scale down and up this scaling universe, output like G in a very clean way from the mathematics with some 11 numbers of precision. And we know it's correct, although it can't be measured that far, because the same mathematics outputs, the Reinberg constant with like 11-digit precision. It outputs the G factor with 14 numbers of precision and all this stuff. So we know that we have G till almost 11, or at least 11 numbers of precision. And so now we have a way to make quantum theory much more precise and relate the cosmological scale and quantum theory so that you have this type of precision at the cosmological scale, which is it's not, there's no match in physics to that. So, yeah.
And besides the science, I mean, the real important work of this is being able to prove this or write the equations that help people realize that we are all connected, that this is a connected universe, and that changes our paradigm. And after watching your first 3 intro videos on your courses there with Marshall, it kind of gave me some hope for the future that, this will open up things and open up technologies and more of a chance for free energy and that kind of stuff, like being able to pull energy out of the ether, that you're proving exists, like the ancients did. Right. Like Hermes Trismegistus, one of his principles was vibration. I mean, how did he know vibration was the key back then? And now you're starting to prove that on paper, right?
That's what Tesla said too.
All the ancient people knew about these things, because if you look at many cultures around the world, they talked about this fundamental field that oscillated, that vibrates, like you were saying. And they called it many different things throughout the ages, like one of the more recent way it was conveyed was called the ether. And that was in physics theory until, Einstein. But like all electromagnetic fields equations from Maxwell were written with an ether. The concept that it was that space was not empty and it was oscillating, but not just oscillating in chaotic way. It made vortices, and these vortices, Maxwell literally described the electromagnetic field as vortices with little balls in it, which were the particles, and got the right answer for the electromagnetic radiation that we observe and all this. So the fact is that he had an ether, and some of the greatest physicists we have today, like Frank Wilczek, give talks about how one of the biggest error that happened in physics is that we removed the ether. He even called us children of the ether. And this is a Nobel Prize winner in physics. He should be taken seriously when he says that. It's funny, but it's serious. He's saying that all the material world emerged from this fundamental field, and as well as the possibility that consciousness is literally an emanation of that same field, and thus it's all one thing, right? And it's not only the fact that it's all one thing that way, but it's actually all one thing literally, because it is entangled through wormholes. And people don't realize that this is not a new idea. Like John Wheeler and actually Einstein and Rosen in the 40s came up with papers that describe wormholes for the first time in physics. When they did that, people think that they described wormhole at the cosmological scale, at the big scale, but they didn't. They described cosmological, wormhole at the atomic level to attempt to map quantum physics to wormhole dynamics in the structure of space-time. People don't realize that. They talk about wormhole all the time. It's in science fiction, but it's always at the cosmological scale, where, in fact, all the atomic scale is actually wormholes as well. The whole thing is connected. It's all connected to one field. And when that field spins, it makes small stuff we call atoms or galaxies or superclusters or universes that we see in our cosmological scale.
So is this is probably the furthest a competing theory has got that's been able to unify the small and the bigs, the micro and the macro. What is there anything else that's competing right now? Like there was string theory a while back, or are we kind of? I mean, it seems like in a lot of ways and on a lot of different frontiers, we're sort of tipping over some of these pillars of science.
Right. I mean, the paper that I'm publishing, you were asking what I'm working on. This is the paper I'm publishing. So I can't, say it's the most advanced because it's not published yet. But I'm just saying, there's two things. For instance, string theory that you mentioned. Well, string theory is wonderful, and thousands of people have worked on it, and millions of dollars have been spent. But it has not succeeded in 2 decades in producing any physical evidence. There is no way to measure or to confirm the theory with measurement. Not one measurement has been able to confirm string theory, which is why most physicists have abandoned it, or there's still physicists working on it. However, it's a much smaller group now. But in the case of this theory, the radius of the proton that the theory predicts, which is 4% smaller than the standard model, has now become the official value that all physicists use. That's why I mentioned co-data earlier, to describe the size of the nuclei of an atom. Now, you might say, well, 4% is not much difference between your theory and the standard model. The problem is that, remember I was telling you about all these constants that have a lot of accuracy. They all need the radius of the proton to be accurate, cannot be off by 4%, because then it has repelling effect, repeating effects in the whole theory that eventually gets the whole thing falls apart. So that's why it's been a big problem for physicists. Although it was measured in 2013, I published in 2012 the prediction. Although it was measured in 2013, it was not accepted right away, because of course it was like throwing the pillar of the standard model out the window. So it took a while, and the measurement at the time was done with muons, which are heavy electrons. And so physicists were saying, well, maybe the shorter radius is due to the surface of the proton flexing when it's being hit by such a heavy particle. So they repeated the measurement in different accelerators all the way until 2018, where they actually were able to measure it more accurately with the normal technique, which is the electron. And interestingly enough, in order for them to get the correct radius, they realized that they had to throw out the standard model calculation to get the correct radius. So this is much more solid, on much more solid ground than string theory or any other unification theory, for that matter.
So did they call you up after that and were like, way to go, Nassim, you nailed it?
No.
No? You're still waiting?
I might have missed that call. Yeah. You know, I get so many calls.
Yeah, another Nassim Haramein got it out of the blue. So where do you think unified field theory will be in 20 years?
Oh, I think in 20 years, we will be on our way to visiting our solar system in a similar way that we are visiting our planet today, in a more casual way than burning rocket fuel, you know, to try to get a few miles up and then kind of hanging in there, you know, in orbit. Gravity control is going to be a very strong focus, yeah, and result of this understanding of physics. Just like I was saying earlier, you know, G is going to be known, and not just known. The fact that the theory output G tells you how G works, you know, where Einstein field equation tells you that gravity is the result of space-time curving. It doesn't tell you what space-time is made of, right? So it's not very useful if you're trying to figure out how to curve space-time artificially. But to the contrary, this theory tells you what space-time is made of. It's made of little particles, you know, that are fluctuations.
The Planck fluctuations?
I'm sorry?
The Planck fluctuations?
The Planck fluctuations, exactly that. The Planck scale, much smaller than the atom, like billions of times lower and smaller than the atom, and higher in frequency, thus, you know, shorter wavelength than the atom, is the Planck field, the energy field, the ether, the mana, you know, of creation. And from there emerge all the material world. That's what the theory, including gravity. So all of a sudden, you get that space-time is no longer some mathematical model in Einstein field equation, but it's a real thing that's oscillating. And when it curves, it produces gravity. Now you know how to produce gravity.
I have a note here to ask you about the size of the Planck versus the proton, because when you describe that in your video, it's quite amazing. Like the Planck to the proton is like the proton to 4 light years away or something like that.
Well, yeah, so imagine, like, people say, well, if the space is full of these vibrations and they're so energetic, right? The mass is 10 to the 93 grams per centimeter cube. It's huge, right? How come I don't feel them? Well, you know, it's because you don't feel a lot of the electromagnetic field around you, right? So like radio wave, microwave, you know, infrared, all the stuff, you know, ultraviolet, background radiation from the galaxy, like all that's going through you right now. You have no clue, right? Well, if you look at the electromagnetic field, like you can go shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter wavelength. Eventually, you get below the atom, you get to the Planck scale. And we know the Planck scale is there because it's the base of how we know that the electron quantized, and that's how we discovered photons. And this is the base of quantum mechanics. That's when quantum mechanics was very much classical. Well, we know those are fundamental units, like they're natural units. Like we call them natural units because like the foot is not a natural unit. Like it's the foot of some king that decided to be a foot, right? Like the meter, right, is related to the earth, but it's not fundamental. In this case, the Planck length is like pulled right out of of gravity, of the speed of light, of the electromagnetic field. And so basically, this very teeny thing, the wavelength of this thing, if you grew it to be a grain of sand, so you grew a little Planck grain of space-time, so it was a grain of sand, then the proton would have a diameter from the sun to Alpha Centauri, which is about 40 trillion kilometers. So, you know, that's how small this oscillation is. So, of course, you don't feel it. It's present, but you don't feel it because it's not anywhere close to where you would register it with your body, but as well, it's nowhere close to where we would measure it with our devices.
But what about your memory or your consciousness? I mean, I read a paper that you had on your site that was, it seemed to me like, and it was way over my head, but it seemed to me that it was kind of saying you guys have found evidence for memory and awareness being not just a mechanical, like a mechanical or chemical active part of your mind, but you're connected to something greater.
Right.
I can't remember what the paper was called. I've got it here somewhere, but it seems
it's called Space Memory Network.
Yeah.
And then it has a subtitle. But the Space Memory Network paper actually was cited by really good researchers in the Netherlands very soon after it was published. And I was pretty happy to see that there was a lot of interest. With the new equations I'm going to publish, it's going to get much better. This was a first, iteration, a first approximation, but already it showed clearly that in the context of this understanding of unification, that complex system emerge from information flow through this field. So imagine you got this field of information, right, that we're calling the Planck field. It's everywhere. Or this field of energy, you can think of it as information, just like you think about the internet.
Or the Akashic records.
You could call it that way, yeah. The ancient civilization knew about that as well. And then you can imagine that, this field of information, it organizes like vortices, and these vortices organize in larger ones and larger one and larger one, and they eventually make cells, and these cells organize into more complex system, and eventually, you got 100 trillion cells or 40 to 100 trillion cells in your body, and, you have enough DNA to like go around the world like 5 million times in one body. And so you can think of all this as information exchange, right, with this fundamental energy. And when you calculate this the energy exchange, eventually you would have a complex system, biological system that could become self-aware. It could become aware that it is part of this field, and that it is individualized. But it might become aware that it's individualized first, and then become aware that it's part of this field, just like a fish would all of a sudden figure out, oh, I'm part of the water, like, I'm made of water and there's water all around me, right? But it might discover that later. It would discover first that it's a fish, right? And then discovered it's part of a larger thing that is its field. And basically you could describe consciousness like the body being an antenna in this field of information, just like a radio set is an antenna, in the field of electromagnetic fields of, frequencies of the radio frequency, right? This is like, we're like radio set of the Planck frequency.
When you get down to that Planck scale, is it similar to what we see at like the atomic scale where it's still mostly nothing?
Well, just like the fish is made out of water, when you look at the atomic scale, it's made out of what?
Plancks?
Yeah, but I mean, when we look closely, like at the electron, the proton, whatever, all we see is charge, right?
Energy.
Yeah, that's all we see. Like the radius of the proton or the electron, whatever, are just definition of a section of space that has a high density electrostatic field that we call a particle. It's not a thing. It's not like a billiard ball down there. It really isn't. And actually, when you look at the difference between the proton, the nuclei of the atom, and the space, and then the electron, the atoms that we are made of, and all the existing world around you is made of 99.9999999% space. And this space, so basically our reality is space with a little jiggle in it. Okay? And we know that this space is full of energy. So there's a good chance the jiggle is the result of the space, not the other way around. You see? So basically what we call reality is a leak of or an exchange of information through the field.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, well, that means it's
It kind of goes
somewhat malleable, it would seem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes. Go ahead.
You might have to drop mushrooms to integrate it, but when you do, it's all good.
It's funny you say that because you mentioned the part about the fish realizing it's in the water. And
that's what people usually report from those experiences.
I was on a bunch of mushrooms there on the show. If you get the black budget, you'll get the episode where I ate the mushrooms on the show. Okay. And someone came we were in the basement and someone came walking down the stairs. And as they came walking down the stairs, I could feel the vibrations of it like thumping through the airspace. And I started talking about how I was like a fish underwater, how I'm like a bottom feeder, just walking around at the bottom of the sea of air.
And I wasn't. And there's no way I could sense or feel anything. I don't even think I could hear the person coming down the stairs.
No, you looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, the perception, what those things do is they change the perception. It's like you tuning the antenna to a higher frequency. All of a sudden, the data rate goes down, goes up through the roof. Next thing you know, it's like you can have extrasensorial, experiences, and awarenesses that you didn't have before. The problem is you have to be able to integrate it when you come back, and that's where, it can be some, like, I call it impedance, in the information flow.
I'm still trying to integrate my last DMT experience.
Well, I do like how you mentioned there are all these paranormal things, like whether it's remote viewing or remote healing. I mean, this is leading us to an actual mechanics for that to happen. It's not like people tend to think it's either spiritual or it's physical, it's materialistic or it's not. But I think what you're saying and proving here is that it is all connected physically. And once you get down to that level, it becomes almost spiritual.
Right.
That's the way people would see it.
Well, I'm known for saying that spirituality is the physics we haven't understood yet.
Yeah.
So, clearly, consciousness being a relationship to the Planck field, from consciousness, all these equations of physics, all the comprehension we have from the world, everything we experience, it's all subjective to our consciousness being able to describe it. You can't get out of that, right? It is a direct consequence of us expressing ourselves, right? And so you can't really separate consciousness from physics because it's our interpretation of the world that we're writing in the physics, right? And so the whole thing, if now physics can explain how you became conscious, it's like the hand that's drawing the hand. It's like, it's like you close the loop. Basically, you understand from the physics how your consciousness got there to write the physics.
And then you cease to exist.
But, the thing is that it literally is like that in the equation, meaning the equation is a recursive fractal equation that gives all the scales. And it is exactly that. It's the answer is feeding back into the equation and it, it creates scales that way.
It's funny how all those great numbers like pi and phi, and they always seem to be like those weird never ending, or I forget what the irrational numbers.
Yeah, irrational numbers. Yeah. And they're found everywhere. Well, phi is found everywhere in nature. And that tells you something, that geometry's got to be involved. It has to create the natural world. It's clearly there. For instance, all of the biggest Hollywood, rendering farms for like animation, CGI, and all this, they all use fractals equation when they want to make the natural world look natural. Like when they make a new planet with all kinds of crazy wildlife on it, and but they want it to look natural, like make a plant that looks natural, but that's purple, or some color that is hard to see, that it can't be from Earth, or something, but it has the natural look. Or even when they're trying to reproduce in CGI the natural look of the Earth, they use those fractal equations, and they use these fundamental numbers that produce this kind of fractal structures that reproduce the natural world. So the fact that those numbers are there in the world, in the natural world, tells you that there is mathematical precision to the universe.
Is that how you ended up? Was it you that ended up designing the ARK crystal, or how did that whole thing come about? It sounds like that's kind of leading towards designing your own thing like that.
Sure. If you think of those equations and what they say about space-time, then you start making technology that would interact a little bit with the structure of space-time, although, it's like, okay, space-time is shaking. How can I shake with it? Let's literally make a milkshake, let's make a little vortex in space-time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's resonate, exactly. And definitely when you look at the way you could do that in a laboratory, you would use, things that are producing electromagnetic fields that are that can resonate well, right? Well, okay, you get a bunch of things, but at the end of the day, you would find that the technology uses a piece that is resonating, right, in all of their devices, and they happen to be crystals, right? They run all of our technology, all of our oscillators or crystalline wafers that we cut very, very thinly and that we oscillate at high frequency. And so if you want to go to a high frequency, you'd use, good crystals that are pure and all this. And so eventually you get to the place where you think, oh, okay, maybe using a crystal and oscillating it, like spinning an oscillating field at high enough frequency in its vicinity might structure the space in the crystal in such a way that it would create a little field in that field of coherency, a little vortex in that field of fluctuations that makes up reality. And it's not a crazy thought. It's like, oh, okay. And so you start going at it, and you start trying to make a vortex. And I made a pretty good vortex, and I realized I could modify the structure. Sorry, I have my kid here. Hi. It's okay. We're in confinement. I usually be in the lab, but it's okay. It's my younger staff,
Test subjects.
Yeah. Oh no, they're my masters. They're my master. I eventually made a crystal that oscillates and that was able to maintain oscillation from the restructuring of the space inside them, so that they produce this little coherency wherever they are. And it was pretty well sustained. I did it in 99 first time, and I picked that geometry of a tetrahedron because I wanted to oscillate the space most closely related to its geometry at the Planck scale. So I tried to match the geometry, right? And then and cut it very precisely, and then put it in this vortex field, and then see if I could get some residual effect. And the crystal I was able to charge then or modify then are still active today and doing about the same that they were doing then. So I know it's resilient. And the effect that it has generally is that it modifies the water molecule, meaning it changes the water molecule, it structures it a little bit so that it's more energetic. And so when you expose water to it, the water changes and becomes a little more energetic. We can measure it in laboratory. It's very solid. And when you give it into plants, they grow faster, bigger, stronger. They're more healthy. They're more resistant to pathogens, to invasions. And so kind of like the fruits are much bigger. They make much more fruits. Their seeds are much more viable. So it has a very positive effect on plant growth, and thus anything that functions on water, which include human beings.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there other ways that you're going to apply these theories into technology? Like you mentioned G and anti-gravity a couple times, and it just and now talking about the geometric shapes, it really makes me think about this. I saw this UFO in Israel with a group of people, and it was a dodecahedron or an icosahedron shape, and it was quite large in the sky, and it was spinning. The halves were spinning against itself, and it was floating quietly through the sky. And I mean, you talked about, well, that's going to be the next 20 years. We're going to have some of this technology, but I mean, some people think
it might not be that advanced.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, something's flying around in anti-gravity right now. I mean,
right.
Do you think it's somebody's got it there, or is it just? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I have many thoughts on that. I don't know. I mean, first of all, it's important for the listeners to understand, I'm coming from the scientific perspective, but I am an honest scientist. So I just look at the data, and the data is kind of overwhelming. And so it's like, if you do just a little research, let's just take the number of inhabitable stars in our galaxy alone, that are planets that in our galaxy alone. In the amount of stars that have planets is remarkable. In fact, we're having a hard time finding stars that don't have planets, and many of these planets are in the Golden Lock region, where they are not too hot, not too cold. They could have water on it. We know some of them have. There's a lot of water in the universe. We know that now. It's everywhere. And so the I think as of 2013, there was the estimate based on statistic of what they had found, right, was about 40 billion planets in our galaxy alone that could sustain life. So like just that fact should so just so we know, 20 years ago in physics conference, I would have let's just call them long-winded arguments with physicists about the possibility of life on Earth in the universe. And I wasn't even insinuating anything close to those numbers. I was just saying maybe in the whole universe, right? There could be a planet with water on it with life, right? I was just going for one, so now at this point, of course, most physicists say, okay, yeah, there's most likely life out there quite a bit, and there could be a lot of advanced life. Now consider that some of these planets might have 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years on us, right? Imagine what we've done in 150 years of, scientific investigation and application on our planet. We went from horse and buggy to, satellites and launching rockets and so on. And having cell phones, what does your cell phone or your computer looks like 1,000 years from now, right? How many upgrades did you get, right? And what does your mode of motivation that used to be a plane and a rocket looks like, right? 1,000 years. Never mind 1,000,000 years, right? 1,000,000 years later, right? Hopefully you're able to control gravity. Okay, this is where I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, you've understood how gravity works and you know what it is, right? You figured out it's something like space-time, but you know what space-time is made of. And you realize you can make wormholes. You realize you can traverse large distances, at most likely faster than the speed of light, at least through wormholes. And you can go pretty well anywhere you want in the galaxy or even extragalactic. So, this kind of things are not if you want to know what science facts are going to look like, you look at science fiction and you subtract, 50, to 100 years, right? And it's not a linear curve, so actually it's accelerating. So at this point, you can subtract 20 to 50 years. And so I'm just saying, there's a pretty good chance that extraterrestrials have visited our planet because of the sheer numbers. And then when you look at the evidence throughout history of having had contact with extraterrestrial communities, it's not only in the archaeology, but in modern times, there's very strong evidence, including 2 days ago, the Pentagon, releasing officially, footage from, pilots, chasing down UFOs.
Do you think it's a possibility that consciousness could exist on the different fractals of reality? When you look at when you're looking at the Planck scale or the atomic scale or everything okay?
I'm sorry. Are you okay, Munchkin? Oh, okay. Yeah, don't.
Hope everyone's okay.
Be careful.
How about you? Are you okay, Munchkin?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
He's good.
I just when you start to look at, say, the Milky Way, for example, on the scale of zoomed out, look at the Milky Way, and you look at maybe that supermassive black hole at the center as being the nuclei of an atom or something like that. It almost seems to scale like that. And
yeah.
And if it's all sort of just energy anyway, then it seems like a possibility that the cells inside my body are maybe there's some sort of weird reality going on for them. You know, like I remember watching an old like science show back in like 80s where it like zoomed into Buddy's shoulder. And at first it showed like these germs crawling around on him. But as it kept zooming in, all of a sudden it zooms in. It's like this bustling street and there's shops open. And it's like maybe the cells inside my body can only operate if they've got some sort of sense of meaning. You know, you got to build in a sense of meaning. Like us going to work, this is just some sort of subset reality for us, you know, somewhere in the shoulder blade of some mega being.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you can like these concepts have been there for a long time, you know, like ancient civilization talked about the inner world, you know, as being the path to the other world, and you know, like the connection between the big and the small. We could be an atom. Our universe could be an atom in the shoulder of a giant, you know. However, it looks a little more, I think, like how do you say, like fractal structures or division in the structure of space. You know, it meaning that it's not gonna necessarily organize as biological life at all scales. The biological life might be different scales depending in which universe they're in, but the universes in this fractal universe thing are embedded within each other, right? So they're not parallel, and that's important to understand. So that means that each point is in relationship with the whole fractal thing, whether you go up or down. So it's coordinated. You know, it's best to think of the fractal instead of biological fractals as like, you know, spheres within spheres, like Russian dolls, you know, within each other to infinity, right? From infinitely big to infinitely small, which includes sub-Planckian links, you know. So out of our scales, after we prove all the rest of the stuff, we go more speculative, you could call it, but we're pretty confident because we output a smaller scale than the Planck scale because you can continue to divide. And of course, if it's smaller, that means it's oscillating faster than the speed of light because the Planck scale is oscillating at the speed of light. So now this thing is oscillating at 10 to the 40th, the speed of light. So I don't know if people understand exponent, but there's about 10 to the 40th centimeter difference between the radius of the proton and the size of the universe. So, you know, something that's going 10 to the 40th faster than the speed of light to you would appear as instantaneous, right? And so this is the flow of the information that we need to access in order to translate the universe, in order to like go from one side of the universe to the other. Like we could go from one side of the universe to the other at 10 to the minus 17 seconds. Like that would be how long it takes, which is like a very, 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 very teeny amount of time. You don't have time for the peanuts or the jet lag, or, you know, you don't get the nice meals or anything like that. You just leave and you arrive pretty well, you know, for you, it's instantaneous. So that's a possibility. That'd be nice.
Just translate that into technology. You know, we'll have our anti-gravity craft.
Is that why you start getting into holographic when you see those things oscillating at the speed of light? Because that's almost like, I mean, was it Richard Lighthouse we were talking to about how it seemed like the universe is sort of blinking in and out of existence all the time?
Right. Well, it's oscillating. So we would see it as blinking out in and out of existence, but it's not. It's just exchanging information. So when it exchanges information, right, it's like it's like a semiconductor, right? I'm trying not to get too technical, but think of a crystal oscillating is a semiconductor oscillating, and it's piezoelectric. It produces, electromagnetic oscillation because an electron falls into a hole, right? Basically, and this principle give the right answer for the amount of energy, and so on, and basically. What is? I'm sorry. My son is doing all kinds of things.
It's okay.
Hey, Munchkin, Mushy. Don't. It's okay.
Looks like a nice sunny day.
Yeah.
It almost matches the window in the window. Could just be a continuation, except our trees don't have leaves yet. We're still a month away from having leaves on trees.
The universe was interrupted.
That's okay.
Chaos theory.
Yes. My universe was interrupted with another one.
They overlap sometimes.
They do. The vortices, they collide, and then smaller ones come out.
We don't want to keep you too long, so maybe we could start wrapping it up here with maybe we can cycle back quickly to the course. I mean, I was going to ask you kind of a crazy question, but okay, let me ask you that first, and then we'll cycle back to the course. I don't want to let that one go. But we talked about the anti-grav and the UFOs, and you mentioned the Pentagon thing. I'm surprised there is groups all over the world working on this type of technology. I mean, have you been approached by people? Have you had offers at all, or have you been involved at all in any kind of maybe advancement of some technology? And you don't have to answer, but
yes, I was approached by many different groups throughout the years. Some that were private groups and some that were, part of larger
organizations.
Yes. We're just going to call it that way. Yeah. And there's a large effort that's being made, even public efforts at NASA that are being made. NASA is publicly attempting to produce a vacuum drive, that is warping space-time. I mean, this is part of what's actually happening in the world.
Is that M drive? Is that the M drive? That one?
No, the M drive is something completely different.
Wow.
It's the M drive is actually one of the first evidence that propulsion can be generated in the structure of space-time, by electromagnetic field. This is a little conic object that's just blocked on both sides, in which you just input, microwaves. Very simple device, and it produced thrust without anything coming out of the device. It appears to violate the laws of motion. That's why, although it was invented almost 20 years ago, it has not been recognized until recently, when NASA finally, after the Chinese tested it, NASA finally tested it and said, oh, yeah, it does produce thrust, with fairly low level of energy.
Wow.
And so that's one thing. So the only conclusion they could come to was that it was pushing against the structure of the vacuum. It was pushing against the Planck field. That they actually published. And but the same organization within NASA that is research that measured the M drive is the same part of NASA that's trying to make a warp drive. And they've been trying to make a warp drive by harvesting some of the energy that's in the structure of space to create a wormhole, or like a singularity, a point of high density that, can be displaced in front of the ship to make the ship gravitationally attracted to some. It's like the carrot in front of the donkey, it keeps trying to get it, but it can't fall in the black hole because it's just in front of it. Yeah.
I wonder if the
Interesting.
first people, like, they'll try and flick it on and they'll just be like, bloop, accidentally just on the other side of the universe. And they're like, shit, how do we get back?
Kind of like the Philadelphia
Or
experiment.
like Star Trek Voyager, where they just got lost and they're like trying to get home, you know? Because you just.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Like, well, yeah, exactly. Like, what about, what
Or
happened to
dodging
Bob?
stuff.
Well, who's volunteering for the next try?
Yeah.
Because I guess, or when you're flying through space at this insane speed, you're not actually traveling through space. You're just existing, blinking and blinking sort of thing. So you don't need to dodge stuff.
Right.
I always feel like when in Star Trek, like they don't just hit the odd rock. It's
Yeah.
like-
You must feel somewhat vindicated after going against the grain of academia for so long and doing your own thing, your own research, and now you're teaming up with other like physicists and stuff like that. But that you're actually recognized by some of these greater organizations for your work informally,
Right. Well, it's coming along. It takes a long time. It's hard to go against the grain. People that have been working on these things for decades, and they are, being educated in a certain way. It's very difficult to change the paradigm, but it's really moving nicely now. I think there's more and more people realizing it was not so obvious 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I was going to physics conferences. It wasn't so obvious that there was a problem in physics, meaning physicists were happy with two vastly different theories that described the small and the big, and they didn't see any reason. They thought, oh, the string theory is coming and it's going to resolve this, and we don't really need. And and they were very confident. I was told multiple times, oh, no, we're going to have this all beautiful and clean within the next few years.
Yeah, that leftover stuff is just dark energy and dark matter. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, we'll detect it eventually. We just got to get a few $1 billion, and we'll have it. And it's all going to come together. And so, there was there was a lot of arrogance, in fact, and so it was hard. And, but now, I hadn't done all the work necessary to be able to bring the proof. Now I have, and, that's a different world, so these kind of things happen. They start to support a theory. Well, typically those eventually become, the prevalent theory that's utilized.
Yeah. Well, and plus you're bringing it to the public. I mean, you've got it. I love how you've got it out there in your Resonance Foundation, your Resonance Science Foundation website. That whole documentary, The Connected Universe, was made about you, which was fantastic for people. They can go to Vimeo and watch that. And,
with Picard narrating.
Yeah.
Picard?
Yeah, Sir Patrick on the narration. So can you maybe just talk, and we'll let you go here. We don't want to keep you too long, but about the courses, just to tell people about the courses quickly again and how they can start learning all this stuff. I mean, how to think differently and about the physics and all that.
And where we can get our ARK crystals.
Yeah, and the ARK crystal too, yeah.
Yeah, the course can be gotten at Resonance Science, the Resonance Science Foundation. So it's resonanceScience.org. And it's free. You can register right there and take the course. And we have a forum people can talk about all these ideas on. And since we just opened free, I started to do like a 2-hour question and answer session every week, on Wednesdays, where I, for each of the modules of the course, and I talk about that specific module on each of those weeks. And so, people can participate on that too. That's free as well. And we're building, a strong community. We have some 70,000 people involved. Millions of people are following us on Facebook and so on. And so it is getting, very a great conversation that's going on, and people participating is a great way. People can get their ARK Crystal at arkcrystal.com. ARK Crystals with an S.com. And as well, we have a research lab that's called Taurus Tech. And we're doing a lot of theoretical research that we're in the middle of getting put in place to be published soon. And people should keep their eye on that, because when it comes out, it's going to have really important information for the public. It's going to be a technical paper. It's going to be for the more technical public at first, but we're going to write layman articles to explain what we're saying in the paper. We are planning even equation per equation to explain what the equation says, so that people understand what we're talking about.
Fantastic. That's great. Thanks so much for doing that. I think it's really important work, just proving that we are all connected. I mean, it really is changing people's paradigms. So
Totally.
I'll put all those links in the show notes for everything. And we really want to thank you for your time spent here. And it's nice
Thank
to meet you.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, it's all good. All good.
Hopefully those little ones will be reading some textbooks with some unified field theory in it one day.
Yes, they will. I mean, it's really amazing to see as well people taking the course that are the young population, including 10-year-olds and so on, and they get it. It's really, really good, and they ask really good questions, and the dialogue is remarkable. People are really opening up to these ideas, and it's really important that we have the good science to come with it, so that that it's based on something solid, and that's really critical.
Awesome. Right on. Thanks a lot, Nassim.
Right on.
Thanks
for coming on the show, Nassim. Have a good night. Enjoy your quarantine. And
thank you. You guys too.
Come back anytime.
Hello to Canada over there in the great north. I miss
it's not
you
white
all.
now. It's sort of starting to color up a little bit slowly.
Oh, good. You guys are on freezing.
I wonder if the ARK Crystal is good for COVID.
Oh,
Can't hurt.
Maybe, yeah.
Can't hurt.
Well, it helps people with vitality and energy levels. It definitely helps plants. That we've proved that. So, I since we're mostly made out of water, I don't see why it wouldn't help humans.
Yeah, just don't say that word or we'll get censored, Darren. Be careful.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, see you later.
Right on. Thanks, Nassim. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Now is a chat with the one and only Nassim Haramein. What'd you think, buddy?
It was good. I don't know. I find like when I'm in the show, I have more epiphanies and I understand it more than when I'm studying for the show. I really do. Maybe it's because I'm really focused and listening or something like that.
Epiphanies?
Yeah, or just clarity.
Like
I
more,
just feel clarity. Like
clarity?
the whole. At first, when I first learned about, when I was with Michael, like 6 years ago or 5 years ago at his lecture, and learning about the mass of the proton and the spin, radius, all the stuff, the holographic part. Sometimes it just sounds like words, but now I picture it more. I visualize it more as like the way space is shaped.
Really coming along.
The geometric aspect of it.
Really coming along.
Maybe that UFO I saw was something to do with,
I wasn't expecting you to bring up the UFO,
I
but
thought, what the hell, might as well.
You only get to talk to Nassim Haramein once. You might as well bring up your Israel UFO site.
He made a tetrahedron crystal, right? I mean, and I saw an icosahedron UFO, so I felt like there's a connection there.
I feel like we should order some ARK Crystals this year, 2020.
That's our goal. Let's manifest it.
ARK Crystals.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's manifest it. We should.
Grimerica.ca/support. Anyway, that was a fun one.
Like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great video. The courses are great. Marshall, I mean, I was going to talk to Nassim about it, but we've had, Adam Apollo is helping him out. Marshall Efforts is the host of those videos with the courses. We had him on about his book Cosmometry. That was a fantastic chat. And we've had
was it Cosmometry?
I think that's what it was called. Yeah. Yeah. And we've also had Jamie Jan over on a couple times.
Twice. 3 times?
Who's helping
Twice.
Nassim out too. I mean, he's surrounded by a bunch of great folks as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Be fun to do.
And I love the mix of like spiritual. He goes back to these ancient things and the ancient sites, and they're very open to, the higher consciousness aspect of all this as well.
It'd be good to go on a little contact with him one day. Go to Egypt with him.
Yeah.
Hang out in the Great Pyramid. Heard some stories. Sounds like a fantastic cat to hang out with. Does a fantastic interview from his lockdown. Finally got Nassim on the show. Fantastic. Big thanks shout out to Brian for helping us put that one together.
Thanks, B-Lord.
We love you, Brian Lord. Oh, I doxed him. Is that doxing, or is it only if I give his address and stuff?
Yeah, you can say names.
You can say names.
Name dropping.
Okay, that's just name dropping. Brian Lord. Grimerica.ca/support. Join our contribute to our ARK Crystal slush fund, and help us keep the wheels turning here in our little self-made media thing in the basement. We've got all this equipment. We got the new gear. Got the sound sounding good. We got the internet bills to pay for. We got rent to pay for. We got hosting to pay for. All these bills to pay for. Couldn't do it without you guys. We'd have had to close up shop if it weren't for our supporters. There'd be no show. That interview wouldn't have happened. No supporters. Luckily, we do have supporters, and they made sure that interview did happen. If you want to be one of those people to make sure the next interview happens, maybe with your hero, Grimerica.ca/support. Remember when you got to interview Theo Fleury?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
Anyway.
Why did that come up?
He was like your hero.
Well, he wasn't like
when
my
you were
contemporary
little.
hero. Yeah. At
What's
one
contemporary?
Point, yeah. What?
When you were little,
modern,
he was your hero.
Modern,
it's funny.
Nowadays.
And then you ended up spinning into an addiction problem.
Exactly.
When you were looking up to Theo Fleury, who at the time you probably didn't realize was spinning out with an addiction problem.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was great.
That's almost like you were probably thinking, I want to be like Fleury.
and I got it.
Yeah.
Minus the, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Blow,
You're probably better off. If you had millions, you might not be here.
Yeah.
You might have just had
I wouldn't have made it.
You'd have a really nice tombstone.
Have made it. Yeah, I wouldn't have made it.
Grimerica.ca/support, guys. We love you. Help support to the show. If you're getting a little value from the podcast, send a little value back our way. Of course, if you check out the show notes, there's a ton of different ways you can support the show in there that don't cost you a dime. You can review the show, share the show, sign up for the newsletter, sign your friends up for the newsletter, get some swag over at the Redbubble shop. All sorts of stuff you could do. Send cash and books, send seeds, send whatever. Send feedback, send
synchronicities, sightings.
It seems like we haven't got much spam lately. Let's make it a spam
Well,
week.
because we got the chats now, right? Everybody's in the chat.
Spam we can generate for Graham.
No,
in
it's
a week.
okay. You can just join the chats.
GRAHAM at Grimerica.com. Spam that motherfucker. Let's blow up his inbox. We love you. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Somehow I built a rocket ship out of the stuff dreams are made and popsicle sticks. Please look at my rocket ship schematics. Tell me you can fly to the moon. Tell me I'm not a lunatic. I bet you think I'm a space cadet. I bet you think I'm a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a space cadet. In my hands I have a gas can and matchsticks. Yes, Earth is my home, but I need a vacation. let you do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, no hesitation. I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. I bet, I bet, I bet you think, I bet you think I'm a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a dreamer. Look at my rocket ship fly by, trailing behind a silver streamer. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a space cadet. No regret, I do not fret, 'cause I am a dreamer. Look at my rocket ship fly by, trailing behind a silver steamer.
It's a happier place to be.
Maple syrup is the best. It's so
Yeah.
good. Oh. Just be present with me and love me.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. When they started doing this weird hello.
Hey, Grimericans, that's the way you do it. Listen to Grimerica on the World Wide Web. Hey, Grimericans, that's the way you do it. Donate to Grimerica on the World Wide Web. Hey, Grimericans, that's the way you do it. Money for something good, vibes for free.
Because without support, it all comes to a grinding halt. So keep lubing the system with your support dollars. Grimerica.ca/support.
Touch it and feel it. Let meditate with it on mushrooms. Like do a whole spiritual thing with it. See what happens.
We could smudge it.
Oh, it smells. You can't. It smells. No, your energy body's always with you, though. It's around me. It's my aura that's around me now. It's interloping and overlapping with your aura.
Keep your fucking energy beings off of it. All right? You're making it weird.
Okay, whatever. Just be present with me and love me.
Just keep your energy body off my energy body and we'll be fine. There's no overlapping.
Interloping.
There's no interlope.
I might have used the wrong word there.
Long day in the studio.
Yeah, long day.
Be nice to Graham. He's sensitive.
That's the one that got read to me when somebody found the poll.
I'm more sensitive than I let on.
Most people are.
Graham lets on a lot, so that's why we know there's a lot under this, a lot of iceberg underneath.
A lot of steam puff
A lot of
underneath.
steam puff and
Hot
ice
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
it.
fine. That's our only rule in Grimerica.
There's more rules than that, and I make them up as I go, so get used to it.
Oh, look at that. It's disgusting. It's a half of a skull. And it smells. It's all dirty.
I don't think you need all this technology. If it's consciousness, then maybe, I can go to wherever I need to go in a fucking trash can if I can get my head straight.
They changed their whole meow and they started doing this weird hello.
Take it easy. It's not quite like that.
They say hello.
Hello. There's a jingle. There's a jingle waiting to happen. The unique snowflake. It's all triangles.
One day we'll be selling muffin cookbooks for $150 a piece on some separate entity so that we can get paid for Grimerica. And that'll be like the thing. Head to susiesmuffins.com and buy a book if you want to support the show.